Right, again, we're ready to have a look at potting some of these up. I'm going to use Burnham seedling compost for the bigger seedlings, the ones with decent roots, and I'm going to use these clear, they're about a 2-inch 60mm pot, something like that. And I want to put several plants into each one. I think if I do that, we've got a better chance of them going down into this compost and being able to drain it, because like everything else, although they want it damper, then I might keep the adult plants. They're not going to want it wet. So I think I might have dropped a bit of a clanger there. Just going to take that little bit of leaf off there, because I mean this is a particularly nice one. You've got two very long roots, you've got a short root, and I don't know how well you're going to see that, but there's actually another one just at the base of the stem that's starting to grow. Now with that, I think I've possibly got too much in there. Let me start a new one. Something like that, shall we say. Okay, well that will sit, I think, reasonably well there. Do I need to dip that down a touch more? Let's try that. I think at that I should be okay. Now I've got another one there with some nice root, and again I'm just going to take that little bit of dead leaf off. I don't want anything in there, and again we've got 4 roots. 2 long ones, 1 medium one, and a short one just starting to grow. And then say that one, which is a much smaller plant, but it's there. Right, I'm going to sit down and try and get these planted so they're not buried, and those roots are going to be able to work. This is going to be no end of fun, I think, because as you can see already, well, you would do if I move the pot into an appropriate spot. We are, the risk is everything is just going to end up in a terrible muddle, and I don't want to do that, so I'm going to use the blunt end of my tweezers and try and push those roots down a little bit, and then I'm going to have to get that out altogether, lift it up, move it a little bit further into the middle, and then see whether I can tease this into something I'm fairly happy with. And I think what I might have to do is just try and ease this around a little bit. I don't want the plants right up against the side. I do want them to be towards the top of the pot like that. And then we've got this one which has got buried, but I can lift that up quite nicely, and I think at like that, we've got 3 plants in there that'll do okay, and probably got room for a 4th. So zoom in a little bit on that one. Have I got another suitable plant I can just plonk into there? Well, that's got quite a nice root, but it's quite a long root. So if I not as easy as you'd think. But we'll do what we can, and we'll just hope that that now can get somewhere. So that's the first little pot done, and I think as far as doing these goes, I might just as well do that. I'm actually going to sit on that plant pot saucer, and I'll carry on. I'll do more of these. One of them I'm going to use moss for ones that are not as big, and I hope that'll help. I want to try and do a little bit of experimentation with this. So I'm going to pause it for now. I'm going to do some more, and then we'll come back in a little while. Right, I've got 11 plants out so far that I think have got a fair chance of doing something. And I've now got these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a dozen or so that I'm much less confident about. Some of them got decent roots, but they're not as big. So I'm going to try something of an experiment now. I've had some moss, just ordinary sphagnum moss you can buy anywhere, nothing special. It's not a long strand or come from out of Mongolia or somewhere. It's just the sort of thing that I've seen in many garden centres. And it's just intended for use with anything. I've used it before with orchids. I'm trying to be a little bit more careful than I would be for ordinary use, because I don't want it having anything in it. There are some little stringy bits like roots for something or other like that, and I found some bits of wood and all sorts in there. But I think the best kind of medium now to try and get these going is to try some moss. I've got some seedling compost, and now I'm going to try some in moss, and I think I can get more in the moss. I'm just more or less going to rest them on top of it. I'm not going to try and push them in or do any more than is absolutely necessary. But I'm just going to put these in, and then they can, I won't quite say live or die, but that's more or less what it amounts to. Just give them a chance. I can't really do a lot more than that. They're going to want lots of moisture. They're in a clear pot, so they'll get lots of light. And I think overall, we might get some of these. But if I've got 11 anyway, and I don't get anything out of these, well, so be it. I don't think I'm going to be too upset. Now all I've done to prep this moss is put it into rainwater and let it soak for a couple of hours, and then I've broken it up. Just want to get something around the back of that. I don't really want to have roots that aren't properly in contact with some of this moss. But whoops, that's gone straight through a hole. I did see somewhere that it's not a bad idea to try and put seedlings into multiple seedlings into a small pot. It helps to establish a microclimate, and you can hopefully give them the very best start in life you can, because they are tiny and they are very easily lost. But it's going to be very interesting to see how we get on with these, because we've all had plants that have come with a moss plug. But what I've done with this pot is I was going to use it for something else, and in the end I didn't. But I bodged it full of holes, and I think that'll be good, because that'll help the moss to dry a little bit, but also to work with the atmosphere that's going to develop in this enclosed seed tray I'm going to put them in. I think that's probably enough in there, so I'll put that away, and then we'll do another one that's similar, but it won't have any holes in the pot, so it's going to be just curious to see how all these things sort themselves out. I mean, some of the rest of these have got virtually no root anyway, so can I do much more than lay them on the top of some of this moss? I don't think I can. This twiggy stuff's a nuisance. I think most of these have got very poor roots, so I'm wondering whether to do any more than just lay them on top of the compost. Now that's got a bit of root as I can bury. And that one's got some roots. But a lot of these have quite poor roots, so as I say, I think A lot of these are not going to make it, unfortunately. But you always get the weaklings in any litter, and I think that's probably what you've got to look at this as. You know, you've got to, some of these will be good, some of these will be vigorous, some of them won't be, some of them will have one coloured flower, one will have another coloured flower, but they'll all be Cattleya tenebrosa. But with seedlings, you're never quite sure what you're going to get, of course. But I think as far as a lot of these go, the roots are so iffy, they can more or less just be pushed into this moss. I'm just going to put a lot of these in and just let them rest on top. Just let them sort themselves out. It'll be very interesting to see what actually does make it through. And what doesn't. But if I do get a few, then there'll be some plant swaps, but that might not be for another 4 or 5 years when it comes down to it. Now there's 3 there, there's a couple that have got no roots to speak of at all. So they can just get popped in and cross your fingers. So, right, that is everything potted. Sorry if a lot of that went out of view. I was busy concentrating, not looking at what I was doing. All of my saucers that I'm standing everything on have been sprayed with an antibacterial cleaner. So although they've been used before, they've been cleaned. So I'm taking every opportunity to try and keep things as clean as I possibly can, which is obviously important with small plants, animals, anything else that you're doing. Right. Let me move these out of the way then. Move my tray. And now I can bring in the propagator I'm going to use. This is a absolutely standard plant propagator. You can buy these anywhere for very little money. I've used this with the Hildepoxens and they've all come out absolutely fine. The lid came with it. It's got a vent in the top so that you can open it and reduce the humidity as you try to introduce the plants to real life. So we've got 3 that are in seedling compost, we've got 2 that are in moss, and this is aquarium gravel with rainwater in, and I'll keep that moist. The compost was damp when I put them in. We'll see how that goes, but basically that is now going into an area. In that flash they were used to strong sunlight. They were deliberately put in strong sunlight because cattlers are supposed to like that. And now that'll go fairly close to the door, and we'll see how we're going on. Anyway, that's something different. I'll have to have some progress reports down the line and see how we're going, but that'll be months away with all that, because these things do take time. The only thing I was advised to do is to wait until it's warm to give them the best chance to go with the Hilda box. I didn't. I did it in January, and I had to have the thing up against a radiator, which I don't think helped very much. So anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I hope we've all learned a bit from it. Bye.